April 2020. Markets are crumbling, fear is in the air, and one man has a wild idea. A CEO and a struggling tech company face a brewing inflation crisis. His options? Stick with safe US treasuries or risk it all on a digital coin hitting the headlines.
Turn Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Bitcoin. Bitcoin. Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, a coin dominating headlines with wild swings. And this tech CEO has just announced a move that could make or break everything.
And then we thought about buying some crypto asset, and eventually we settled upon Bitcoin as the lowest risk, best safe haven crypto asset, like a digital gold. So we opted to buy 250 million worth of Bitcoin.
But that was just the beginning. Over the next 5 years, he doubled down, buying more with every dip, every crash, as if daring the market to stop him. His company, MicroStrategy, didn't just survive, it became a Bitcoin empire. And by 2025, that empire holds over 500,000 Bitcoin, $40 billion worth of relentless ambition. Michael Saylor has no intention of slowing down, no matter the chaos. But this isn't just about one man. It's about a bet that could sink the company he spent 35 years building. If Bitcoin crashes, he could lose it all. Billions in value, his legacy, everything. So what's driving this all or nothing gamble? Is Michael Saylor about to change how corporations play the game or lose his life work in a blink of an eye? So who is Michael Saylor? Born in 1965, he grew up a Nebraska kid raised on the move. His dad was in the Air Force, so they bounced around between bases like Wright-Patterson and Ohio. It's a life that drills discipline into him early, and he's got this spark, this hunger to figure things out. So by 18, he's sharp enough to land a scholarship at MIT, where he doesn't just study aerospace engineering. He double majors in that and the history of science. Michael Saylor wasn't just smart, he was borderline brilliant. He graduated in the top 1% of his class with a 4.8 GPA. He dreams of flying jets like his dad, but life throws a curveball and a heart condition grounds him. The Air Force says no, crushing his jet dreams, so Saylor pivots fast and finds a new path. He jumps into consulting at the Federal Group, then lands at DuPont building computer simulations. At the ripe age of 24, he got his big break. DuPont was so impressed with his software skills, they handed him $250,000 to start his own software company. That software company? MicroStrategy, co-founded with his buddy Sanju Bansal in 1989, and it's a scrappy startup with a big idea: turn raw data into business gold. But Saylor's not your average brainiac. He's intense. The guy takes dates to the office on weekends, hands him a book, and says, "Read while I work." That's next level focus. One time, he flips his car on an icy road, walks away banged up, and heads straight back to the grind. No days off. Michael Saylor is him. MicroStrategy takes off. They snag contracts with DuPont, then a $10 million deal with McDonald's. Saylor's not just coding, he's selling a vision, convincing execs his software can outsmart the competition. And when the dot-com wave hits, they're perfectly positioned. June 11th, 1998, MicroStrategy goes public, and the stock goes to $333 a share, making Saylor a billionaire before he's 35. He's a tech darling, living large with yachts and a sprawling estate. But you know how these stories go. March 2000, the dot-com bubble burst. MicroStrategy stock crashes from $333 a share to $86 in one brutal day. And then the SEC piles on with fraud charges, so Saylor's fortune evaporates and the company's teetering on the edge. Except Saylor doesn't blink. Saylor's not wired that way. He takes a slap on the wrist, doubles down, rebuilding MicroStrategy into a leaner, smarter player. Over the next decade, he slashes costs and pivots MicroStrategy to dominate business intelligence and analytics. By 2020, Saylor's rebuilt MicroStrategy into a major player in the business analytics space. But the world is about to flip again. A global pandemic hits and the Fed's printing trillions at an alarming rate. Inflation's looming, the dollar is losing value, and he sees the need to pivot. In true Michael Saylor fashion, when everyone is going right, he goes left. Just 7 years earlier, Michael Saylor tweeted this about Bitcoin. And now, that's about to change. Bitcoin wasn't meant to be a household name. When Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin in 2009, the idea was simple: a way to transact without the need for banks or middlemen. It was about enabling trustless payments through code, cutting out traditional financial gatekeepers. Simple, right? But over the next decade, it flipped. What started as a tool for dark web deals became Gold 2.0, a digital stash as the dollar starts to crumble. And in 2020, with inflation spiking, Michael Saylor bet big on it. But how big exactly? And how is he even funneling this gamble? MicroStrategy is still a business analytics company, crunching data for big players like McDonald's. But Saylor flipped the script, turning his company into something else, a Bitcoin buying juggernaut. And he's not playing small, he's going all in, betting that Bitcoin's the future while everyone else sticks to the old playbook. So how does he make this happen? Saylor's not sitting on a mountain of cash, so he needs to get creative. His first move, he starts selling MicroStrategy's own stock to raise money. He does this through an at-the-market offering, letting him sell MicroStrategy stock at market prices and raise cash to splurge on buying Bitcoin. But this is just one of his many strategies. Saylor's not afraid to go into debt, leveraging it big time to buy more Bitcoin. The next financial tool in his toolbox? Convertible notes. These let MicroStrategy borrow money from investors who can later swap the debt for company stock. It's a gamble on MicroStrategy's future, and every penny of that borrowed cash goes straight into Bitcoin. And he keeps pushing the debt strategy further. Saylor's latest strategy involves issuing traditional bonds, straight up debt, piling onto MicroStrategy's books. It's a high stakes move. Those notes come with interest payments at a fixed rate, paid semi-annually, and they have to be paid back. But Saylor's counting on Bitcoin's rise to outpace the cost. So how much Bitcoin has he actually bought with all this cash? Let's break down the numbers, and trust me, it's more than you can imagine. Saylor kicked things off in April of 2020, buying 21,000 Bitcoin for $250 million, his first big splash. But he was just getting started. By December 2020, he had already spent over $1 billion snapping up 70,000 Bitcoin. Fast forward to 2021, his biggest single purchase yet, 19,000 Bitcoin for $1.026 billion in February, right as Bitcoin was climbing towards $50,000. And he didn't stop there. In 2022, as Bitcoin crashed below $20,000 during the middle of market turmoil, Saylor kept buying the dip, adding thousands of more Bitcoin at bargain prices. Across these years, his average cost per Bitcoin settled at $69,000, a number that reflects both the highs and lows of his buying spree. Year after year, Saylor kept stacking Bitcoin, never wavering in his belief. He's playing the long game, betting on Bitcoin's scarcity to drive its value higher, and he's not slowing down. By May 2025, he added another 13,000 Bitcoin in just 1 week, spending $1.34 billion. So where does that leave MicroStrategy now? As of June 2025, they spent $40 billion to hold 580,000 Bitcoin, making them the largest corporate Bitcoin holder in the world, with a stash worth more than most corporations' entire market caps. In just under 5 years, Saylor turned a software company into a Bitcoin empire, rewriting what a corporate treasury can look like. But a bet this big doesn't come without some heat. Michael Saylor's bet on Bitcoin isn't just a financial play, it's a full-on belief system. He's not dabbling, he's a Bitcoin maximalist, convinced it's the future of money. After stacking 580,000 Bitcoin worth $40 billion, Saylor's turned MicroStrategy into the ultimate Bitcoin holder. But what's driving this obsession? And could this radical vision change the game for everyone, or bring it all crashing down? Saylor's philosophy boils down to one core idea. Bitcoin isn't just a currency, it's digital gold, the apex property of the human race.
Yeah, well, we think Bitcoin is the highest form of property. It's the apex property in the world, and it's the best investment asset. So the end game is to acquire more Bitcoin.
He believes it's the ultimate store of value, better than gold, real estate, or stocks. Why? Because it's scarce. There'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, and it's untouchable by governments or banks. To Saylor, Bitcoin's a lifeboat in a world where inflation's eating cash alive. Saylor's not just a believer, he's a visionary with massive predictions for Bitcoin's future.
And Bitcoin, it's going to 20 trillion, then it's going to 200 trillion, then it's growing 20% a year.
With Bitcoin currently at a $2 trillion market cap, that's a 100x jump. That's the kind of prediction that could either make history or break everything that he's built. Saylor also thinks Bitcoin will become the backbone of global finance, a settlement layer for the world economy. Imagine countries and companies settling trillion-dollar trades in Bitcoin, not dollars. Saylor's betting his vision of a Bitcoin-powered future will outshine any traditional system. Not everyone's buying it though. Saylor's maximalism has sparked heated debates, both in crypto circles and traditional finance. Crypto critics like Ethereum fans argue he's too single-minded. They say Bitcoin's tech is slow for everyday use and other blockchains are better for payments or smart contracts. And Ethereum maxis aren't holding back of their critique of Michael Saylor's thinking. Meanwhile, traditional finance heavyweights are even harsher. Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan, has long been notorious for his criticism of Bitcoin.
Itself is a hyped up fraud. It's a pet rock.
You're back to that?
Yeah,
Really?
Of course, yeah.
But Saylor hasn't wavered. Every purchase is a doubling down of his conviction, and his comments remain consistent. Personally, I think Saylor is both right and wrong. If you look at Bitcoin as a store of value, there hasn't been a better asset than Bitcoin in the past 10 years. But where I have to disagree with him is Bitcoin ever being a global settlement layer. Even in today's world, Ethereum is still too slow for everyday use, especially compared to newer chains like Solana. When you think about stablecoins, international payments, it always ties back to speed. Bitcoin simply cannot compete with today's market when it comes to speed. But I'm more curious to know what you guys think. Should we only be paying attention to Bitcoin? So what's Michael Saylor's ultimate end goal of Bitcoin? He wants to cement Bitcoin as the apex asset of the digital age. And Saylor's commitment to this vision is unwavering. He's made how he's playing the long game crystal clear.
At any point, would you sell? When would it make sense to take profits there?
Well, I've famously said I'm going to be buying the top forever. Bitcoin is the exit strategy. It is the strongest asset.
But the stakes couldn't be higher. Experts estimate that if Bitcoin's price crashes to $16,500, an 84% drop from today's 105, MicroStrategy's $40 billion bet would no longer cover its $7.5 billion debt, potentially forcing the company into bankruptcy. Add in mounting debt pressures from their aggressive $42 billion financing plan or a regulatory crackdown on Bitcoin, and Saylor could lose it all: his company, his legacy, and his place in crypto history. Despite these risks, Saylor's strategy is inspiring a movement. Other large corporations are taking a page straight out of the Michael Saylor playbook and buying Bitcoin as its treasury reserve asset. You've just seen Michael Saylor's wild journey from skeptic to visionary, risking it all on Bitcoin's future. What's next might shock you even more. North Korean hackers just pulled off the biggest crypto heist ever, vanishing with billions in a matter of seconds. Watch this video right here to see how North Korea stole $1.5 billion in a matter of seconds. And hey, it might cost $100K for one Bitcoin, but subscribing is free. So subscribe.